About a year ago, DianSheng released this. It was the first magnetic speed-soluble FTO on the market, and it was a game changer for people in the FTO community. However, it did have a few problems. It tended to pop quite easily, and to combat this, the Cubicle released an anti-pop kit, which helped the issue for a little bit, but then people started to realize that it was difficult to tension, and the issue was that when installing the anti-pop kit, you had to take the entire FTO apart and then put it back together. And what would happen was the core would get stripped. And what happens when the core gets stripped is it just means the screw can't correctly tighten with the threads because they get ruined and all scratched up. So some sides turned fine, but other sides just didn't tension and would cause issues like this, where the entire edge would pop out. So then they released DIY kits, which helped a little bit, but since they came out a bit too late because the Dian got released a little bit before they actually came out with those kits. And the Dian was the optimal choice for everyone who wanted to get serious about solving FTO. The Dian FTO introduced these floating pieces over each screw, which aided in stability and helped make it turn overall better, and made it the obsolete choice for most people. The only reason somebody at the time would still use the DianSheng was because of the size difference. However, planned to come out the end of this month is this, the DianSheng V2. It is the exact same size as the V1, and it feels pretty similar, and it has the same glossy exterior. The only difference between the two is, if you look, these cuts here are more rounded, which aids in corner cutting, and the cuts here are just as rounded, which aids in corner cutting as well. And it has a ball core, just like the Dian does, and it also introduced these floating pieces over each screw, which aids in stability and just overall quality. Comparing the tracks of the edges, you'll see that this is much smaller than this one, and obviously there's a magnet there, but it's just smaller, and this one is thinner and shorter than this one, and it has more stability here. It protrudes out more. Comparing the triangles, you can see the track from the triangles on the V1 was really just this line. It's kind of sad. But on the V2, it adds the line, and then it adds an extra piece over that to help stability and keep it from popping out of the pieces. What am I doing? As you'll see, it's much more stable versus on the V1. It just sits there, and the magnets were much weaker here too, it feels, versus. And the corners are pretty much the same. They just made it a bit longer and added this extra track here. And overall, just again aids in stability, and it's much better than the V1. Like this, I can't pull this up. But if I take it on the V1, I can pull this up very easily. There's no connection here. Versus here, it helps hold over this little overhang here. You can't just rip it up, which makes it so much more stable. Looking at the floating pieces, you'll see they're much smaller than the floating pieces on the Dian, which is expected because it's a smaller puzzle than the Dian. But to fix the puzzle, if you take it apart, you just slide them right in there, and then you put 3 of the 4 triangles in, and then the corner, because it's a bit difficult to put this together compared to the V1, but it's because how much more stable this one is. You just slide the last triangle in and then put back together. A few notes about it. It's the exact same scale or honeycomb, I guess, pattern on the inside. And it's, again, the same exterior as the V1, same size and all. And I don't know the price yet. I have not been told what it is, and no one else knows what it is yet. But if I had to put a label on what I would pay for this, I would pay $20 to $25, no more than $25. And I'm sure it's going to be likely $30 because considering what the price of the V1 was being $20, which I also didn't like at all, I would be very shocked if this one was similar priced. It's going to likely be much more expensive At most, I'd say 35 would be the highest I could foresee them pricing this. I was asked if you could use parts from a V1 and put them in a V2, or put V2 parts into V1. And while that would make sense, the track design is just so different that if you try to put a V2 triangle with a V1 corner, there's just this gap. And a V1 triangle with a V2 corner just doesn't work because there's this gap here. And same with the edges. You can kind of work that a bit better, but it's just not enough space for the triangle to fit in with the edge at all. And then just trying to match these two again, just the gap. And putting the triangle in here, it looks like, oh, it will fit. You put the corner back, and it just doesn't work well. Like, you could do this, don't know why you would want to do this. So my answer is no. You can't mix and match pieces from the V1 and the V2. However, you can mix and match the springs, which is something that I did. Ben told me that he did it and it felt much better, so I tried it, and the only difference I see is the elasticity, but I did like the stock springs, at least as of now, a little bit more, because it just felt more like stable and blocky, versus these give it much more elasticity, which just doesn't suit my turning style as well. As you see, I'm like getting like lockups a lot because of that, and that's just because of the elasticity. So I would say, if you like it elastic, use the spare springs that come with the V1 specifically, like the ones that come in a little bag with the V1. Those springs would be good for this if you want it more elasticity, versus if you want it more blocky and stable, I would say to stick with the stock springs. Aiden mentioned that their core had a flipped magnet, which might happen on your core. It's just a quality control issue. So it doesn't hurt to check using an edge and just put it over each magnet. The ones around the screws should be attracting, and the ones that aren't around screws should be repelling. Yeah. And if I would main this over the Dian, that's something I was asked. Would I main it over the Dian? And as of now, no. But it's nothing to do with the puzzle itself. I'm just very used to the size of the Dian, and the Dian is a completely different feel. This has a much lighter and airy feel, while this one is much more, in my opinion, tactile. I can feel my turns much easier on this, which just doesn't suit how I like my puzzles. So you may like this. You may also like it if you liked the DianSheng because of the size, but didn't like it because of its turning. The DianSheng V2, again, fixes the turning from the V1, but keeps the size. So for most people, especially people who aren't used to either, it's probably going to come down to preference, because this isn't leagues better than this, and this isn't leagues better than this. They're both great FTOs. They both could be used at a high level. So it would really come down to what you're wanting in your FTO, size-wise and feel-wise. Of course, this is much easier to set up. I just used the Canyon setup, so I put weight 5 on the tracks and then calm on the pieces, and it's awesome. It's a great setup. This one takes a bit longer to set up well, so it also depends on how fast you want your setup to be. Like, you just want to throw in lube and call it a day, use this. If you want to like have to actually set it up much more intricately, use this. And neither have any extra customization features. They just both have a screw, so there's no bonus using this or that. It's really going to come down to size, preference, and feel. But no, personally, just because of what I'm used to, I would not main this. I did get a few nice solves that I'm going to now play while I continue ranting about this FTO for a little bit. So here's those. I don't have too much more to talk about, to be honest. It's a good FTO, it turns nice, and it doesn't explode. So I would recommend it to people who want a smaller FTO, and I would say want a cheaper FTO, but I'm assuming it's going to be around the same price as the Dian, so you're going to have to choose between this and the Dian. And it's definitely, I would say, similar to the Dian overall. Again, different feel, different size, but it's not like terrible in comparison, and the Dian isn't like insane in comparison. There will be some other reviews by other people that you can watch once those are out, and I would recommend watching those before making your final decision on what to buy. And thanks for watching my review. I've never really made a review video before, so I kind of tried my best to talk about what people would care about. But yeah, and thank you to Ben and Aiden for recommending me as one of the people to test this. I'm very happy about that. So yeah, I'll just let the rest of the solves play out. Thanks. Wait, actually, one more thing. DianSheng, please, make a master FTO. Everybody wants it. We all want a master FTO. Quite literally anybody you ask would say, yes, make a master FTO. I doubt you would find one person who would say no. Maybe. But please, just make a master FTO, please. Everybody wants it. Make a master FTO. Please.